A very warm welcome to Kalam Platform Igniting Curious Mind has on date 6 June 2026. Let's begin the chapter Morphology of Flowering Plant. A wide range of structures of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us, even though angiosperm shows a very large diversity in external structures or the morphology. They are all characterized by the presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, fruits. Chapter 2 and 3 we have talked about the classification of plants based on morphological and other characteristics. For any successful attempt at a classification at understanding any higher plants, for that matters any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. We also need to know about the possible variation in different plants found at adaptations of the plants to their environment. Example: adaptation to various habitats for protections, climbing, storage, etc. If you pull out any weeds, you will see that all of them have roots, stems, and leaves. They have been bearing flowers and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portions above the ground forms a shoot system. The majority of the dicotyledonous plants, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of a primary root, which grows inside the soil. It bears lateral roots for several orders and are referred to as secondary, tertiary, and etc. roots. The primary roots are and its branches constitutes the taproots, as seen in the mustard plants. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived and is placed in a large number of roots. These roots originate from the bases of the stems, constitutes the fibrous root system has seen in the weed plants. In some of the plants like grasses, monstera, and banyan tree, the roots are from the parts of the plants other than that of a radicle has called as adventitious roots. The main function of the root systems are absorption of water, mineral from the soil, providing proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reservoirs material synthesized of plant growth regulators. Different types of roots: tap, fibrous, and adventitious roots. A region of the roots. Roots are covered by the apex by a thimble-like structure called as a root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is a region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin-walled, and then dense protoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongations and enlargements and are responsible for the growth of the roots in the length. This region is called as a region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zones gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone proximal to the region of elongation is called as a region of maturations. From this region, some of the epidermal cells from every fine and delicate, a thread-like structure called root hairs. These root hairs absorbs water and minerals from the soil. The region of maturation, root hair; region of elongation, region of meristematic activity; root cap, the region of the root tip. The stem. What the features that distinguish a stem from a root? The stem is ascending part of the axis bearing branches, leaves, flowers, fruits. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of a germinating seed. The stem bears nodes and internodes. The region of the stems where leaves are born are called nodes, while the internodes are the portions between the two nodes. The stems bears buds and they may be terminal or axillated. The stem is generally green and young and later may become woody and dark brown. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flowers, fruits. It conducts water, minerals, and photosynthesis. Some stems perform functions of storage of foods, supports and protections, and vegetative propagation. The leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure borne on the stem. It develops at a node and bears a bud at its axil. The axillate bud later develop into a branches. Leaves originated from the shoot apical meristem and arranged in acropetal order. They are most important vegetative organs of photosynthesis. A typical leaf consists of three main parts: leaf bases, petiole, lamina. The leaf is attached to a stem by the leaf base and bear the two lateral small leaves-like structure called stipules. In monocotyledon, the leaf base expands into a sheath coverage stems partially or wholly. In some, the leguminous plants have a leaf base which may become solvent, which is also called as pulvinous. The petiole helps in holding the blade to light. The long, thin, flexible petiole allows a leaf blade to flutter in the wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bring fresh air to the leaf surface. The lamina and the leaf blade in the green expanded parts of the leaf with the veins and veinlets. There is also usually a middle prominent vein which is known as a midrib. The vein provides a rigidity to the leaf blade, act as a channel of transports of water, minerals and food materials. The shapes, margin, apex, surface, extent or incision of the lamina varies in different leaves. Venation, arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina of the leaf is termed as venations. When the veinlets forms a network of venation is termed as a reticulate. When the veins run parallel to each other within the lamina, the venation is termed as parallel. The leaves of the dicotyledonous plants generally possess a reticulate venations, while the parallel venation is the characteristics of most of the dicotyledon. The types of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire. When incised, this incision do not touch the midrib. When the incision of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking into a number of leaflets, the leaf is called as compound. A bud is present in the axils of the petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not in the axil of leaflets of the compound leaf. The compound leaf may be two types, that is in the laminate compound leaf, that is pinnately compounded leaf. The number of leaflets are present on the common axis, the rachis, which represent the midrib of the leaf as in the neem. The palmately compound leaf, the leaflets are attached at the common point at the tip of the petiole as in the silk cotton. The phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem branches. It's usually three types: alternate, opposite, and the whorled. In alternate types of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner, as in China roses, mustard, and sunflower plants. In opposite pairs, a pair of leaves arises at each node and in lie opposite to each other, as in calotropes, guava plants. If more than two leaves arises at a node and forms a whorl, it's called as whorled, as in Alstonia. Different types of phyllotaxy: alternate, opposite, and whorled. Inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein a shoot apical meristem changes to a flower meristem. Internode do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendage laterally at excessive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tips transform into flower, it's always solitary. The arrangement of flower on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. Depending on whether the axis gets developed into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescence are defined, that is racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescence, main axis continues to grow and the flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence it's limited in the growth. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order. The flower is a reproductive unit in the angiosperm. It's meant for asexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on a swollen ends in a stalk or a pedicel called as thalamus or the receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, and androecium and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organ, while androecium gynoeciums are the reproductive organ. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinguished, are termed as a perianth. When a flower shaft has both androecium and gynoecium, it's a bisexual. A flower having either only stamen or only carpel is a unisexual. In a symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic, radially symmetric, or zygomorphic, bilaterally symmetric. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through a center, it says to be an actinomorphic: mustard, datura, and chili. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is called a zygomorphic. Golmoran, bean, and cassia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular. It cannot be divided into two similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center has in the canna. A flower can be a trimerous, pentamerous, tetramerous, pentamerous when the floral appendages are multiples of 3, 4, 5. Flower like bract are reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicels are called as bracteate, and those without bract is called as ebracteate. Position of the flowers of hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. Based on the position of the calyx, corolla, and rhociums in respect to the ovary of the thalamus, a flower is described as hypogynous, perigynous, epigynous. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupy the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. Ovary in such flower is said to be superior mustard, China rose, brinjal. In gynoecium is situated in the center, other parts of the flowers are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level. It's called as perigynous. Ovary here is said to be half inferior, pulp rose peach. The epigynous flower, the margin of the thalamus grow upward, enclosing ovary completely getting fused with it. Other parts of the flower arises above the ovary, hence ovary is said to be inferior, as in flower of guava, cucumber, and the ray floret of the sunflower. Parts of a flower. Each flower normally has 4 whorls: calyx, corolla, and rhocium, gynoecium. Calyx is the outermost whorl of a flower. The members are called as sepals, and generally sepals are green, leaf-like, protect the flowers in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepals united, or polysepalous. Sepals are free. The corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insect pollinations. Like calyx, corolla may also be a gamopetalous or petal units, or polypetalous in petals are free. The shape of color of the corolla greatly in the plants. Corolla may be a tubular, bell-shaped or funnel-shaped or a wheel-shaped. Estivation. The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in a floral bud with respect to other members of the same whorl is known as estivation. The main type of estivations are velvet, twisted, and imbricate. Waxillary. When the sepals or petals in the wall just touch each other at a margin without any overlapping, the calotropes, it is called as velvet. If one margin of the appendages overlap with that of the next one, and so on in a China rose, lady's finger cotton, it's said to be twisted. If the margin of a sepals and petals overlap with one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmer, an estivation is said to be imbricate. In a P and B flower, there are 5 petals, and the largest standard overlaps 2 lateral petals, which is wings, which turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals, that is keel, and this type of estivation is known as vexillary alpapillinosae. Androecium. Androecium is composed of stamen. Each stamen represents the male reproductive organ consisting of stalks and filamentous and anther. Each anther is usually bilobed. Each lobe has 2 chambers and pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in the pollen sacs, and sterile stamens is called as staminode. The stamens of the stamen of a flower may be united, and other members of the petals among themselves. The stamens are attached to petals. They are to be epipetalous, as in brinjal, epiphyllous when attached to a perianth, as in the flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may be either remain free, polyandrous, or may be united in varying degree. The stamen may be united into one bundles or one bunch or one bundle, which is monoadelphous, or in China roses, or 2 bundles, that is diadelphous in a pea, and into more than 2 bundles in a polyadelphous, as in citrus. They may vary in the variations in the length of the filaments within a flower, as in salvia and the mustard. Gynoecium. Gynoecium is a female reproductive part of a flower. It's made up of more than one carpel. A carpel consists of 3 parts, mainly the stigma, style, ovary. Ovary is the enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tubes and the style. The style connects the ovary to a stigma. Stigma is usually at the tip of a style, and it's a receptive surface of the pollen grain. Each ovary bears 1 or more ovules attached to the flattened cushions like like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they are maybe free, as in lotus and roses, and are called as apocarpus. When they are termed as syncarpus, when the carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and ovary matures into fruits. Placentation, the arrangement of ovules within the ovary, is known as placentation. Placentations of different types, namely marginal, axile, and basal, central, and free central. The marginal placentation placentations forms a ridge along the ventral clutch of the ovary, and ovules are born on this ridge, forming two rows, as in peas. When the placenta is axile, the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary. The placenta is said to be axile, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop in an inner walls of the ovary and peripheral parts. Ovary is one-chambered, but it becomes two-chambered due to the formation of false septa, a mustard and argemone. When the ovules are born on the central axis and septas are absent in the dianthus and the primrose. The placenta is free central, and in the basal placentation, the placenta develop at the base of the ovary and a single ovule is attached to it, and in sunflower and the marigold. The fruits. Fruit is characteristic feature of flowering plant. It is a mature, ripened ovary developed into fertilization. After fertilization, it is a fruit which is formed without fertilization of ovary. It's called as parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, fruit consists of a wall or a pericarp and a seeds. A pericarp may be dry fruit or fleshy. When a pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp, and the middle is a mesocarp, and the inner is a endocarp. In mango, the fruit is said to be a dupe. The development of monocarpillary superior ovary and are one seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp and a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and an inner stony hard endocarp. And coconut, which also has also a dupe and a mesocarp, is fibrous. The seed. The ovules after fertilizations develop into seeds, and seeds, it's made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radicle, an embryonal axis, and one in wheat, maize, are two cotyledon, has in grams and peas. The structures of a dicotyledonous seeds. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, outer testa, inner tegma. The hilum is a scar has on the seed coat through which the development of seeds are attached to a fruit. The hilum is a small pore called has a micropyle. Within the seed coat is an embryo consisting of the embryonal axis and two cotyledon. The cotyledons are often fleshy, are full reserves of food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis is present a radicle and a plumule. In some seeds, such as the castor endosperms formed as a result of double fertilization, the Food storing tissue are called as endospermic seeds. In plants such as beans, grams, and peas, the endosperm is not present in the mature seeds. Such seeds are called as non-endospermous. The structures of monocotyledonous seeds. Monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some of them are orchids, as are non-endospermic. The cereals such as in the maize, seed coats is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and fur. The outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinaceous layer called as allulon layer. The embryo is small and situated in the groove at the one end of the endosperm, consists of one large and one shielded cotyledon known as cutellum, a short axis called as plumule, and a radicle. A plumule and a radicle are enclosed in a sheath which are called as colubtile and coleorhiza respectively. Semi-technical description of typical flowering plant. Various morphological features are used to describe the flowering plant. Brief is a simple and scientific language in which describes a proper sequence of plants. Plant is described being within its habitat: vegetative character, roots, stems, leaves, and then the floral character, inflorescence and flowering plants. After describing various parts of the plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. A floral formula is represented by some symbols, and the floral formula BR stands for bracteate, K stands for calyx, C for corolla, perianth, A for androecium, gynoecium, and superior ovary and inferior ovary, male and female bisexual plants. For actinomorphic and zygomorphic nature of flower fusion is indicated to enclosing the figure with a bract and adherence to a line drawn by the symbols of floral parts. A floral diagram provides information about the number of flowers of the parts of the flower and their arrangement and the relations with which one another. A position of a mother axil is with represents the flower is represented by dot on the top of the floral diagram. A calyx, corolla, androecium, gynoecium are drawn in successive whorls, and calyx being outermost and the gynoecium being the center. The corolla floral formula shows a adhesion within the parts of whorl and between the whorl. The floral diagram and the floral formula is given in the figure. Represents a mustard plant family Brassicaceae. Solanaceae. It's a large family commonly called as potato family. It's widely distributed in tropic, subtropic, even temperate zones. Vegetative character mostly herbs, shrubs, rarely small trees. The herbaceous, woody, and aerial, erect, cylindrical branched solids, hollow, hairy, glabrous underground stems in potato, Solanum tuberosum. Leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnate compound, exstipulate, and venation reticulate. Floral character inflorescence solitary axial cymose has in solanum and flower bisexual actinomorphic sepals free united persistent velvet estivations. Corolla petals free united velvet estivations, androecium stamens free and epipetalis. Gynoecium bicarpellary obligate placed, syncarpous ovary superior bilocular placental swollen with the ovules and axials. Fruits berry and capsule, seeds many endospermous. Floral formula it's given economically important. Many plants belonging to this family are the source of food. Tomato, brinjal, potatoes, spices, chili, medicine, belladonna, and ashwagandha, and fumigatory that is Tobago, ornamental that is Petunia. Summary: flowering plants exhibit enormous variations in size, shape, structures, and mode of nutrition. Lifespans, habitats have a very well developed root system, shoot and root system. The root system is either taproot or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plants have a taproot, while the monocotyledonous plants have a fibrous root. The roots in some plants gets modified into storage of the food, mechanical supports, respiration. The shoot system is differentiated into roots, stems, flowers, fruits. The morphological feature of the stems, like the presence of nodes, internode, multicellular hair, positively phototropic nature, helps in differentiate the stems from the roots. A leaf is a lateral outgrowth of a stem development exogenously at a node. These are green in color, perform the function of photosynthesis. Leaves exhibits marked variations in their shapes, size, margin, apex, extent of incisions of a blade lamina. The flower of a modified shoots meant for a sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescence. Exhibits an enormous variation in structure, symmetry, position of ovary in relations to other, arrangement of petals, sepals, ovules. After fertilization, ovary is modified into fruit and ovules into seed. The seeds either may be monocotyledonous, dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size, and the periods variability. The floral characteristics form a basics of classification and identifications of flowering plant. They can illustrate to semi-technical description of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described in a definite sequence using a scientific term. The floral features are represented in a summarized form of floral diagrams and the floral formula. Thank you so much. You are tuned into Kalang Flatpaw, igniting curious mind where you and I grow together. Thank you for watching.